Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Ishvaro Guratmeti Mukhi Veda Vibhagine Yomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanantam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Shanti 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 Om. Namaste. Welcome everyone. Oh, there is one person missing here. Claudio. Huh? He never misses. He may show up later on. Okay. So we are covering the final verse of the selected 100 verse on Vivekachudamani. And the last verse we covered last week was like he or she who has this knowledge is not subject to elation when situations are in harmony with his or her vasanas, with one's likes and dislikes. So it means to say that he or she does not really get excited when things are happening in a way according to its desires and fears, you know. So elation is that happiness that comes indirectly from the circumstance or situation that presents itself to us. In that case, he or she, the yoni, is not really subject to these, you know, elations and depression when things are unfavorable. So these polarizations, they don't happen, you know, they gradually, they go into more or less a condition of equanimity in relation to the circumstance as they unfold. Yeah? So we covered that last time. The yoni is not really going up and down depending on one's circumstance. The verse 8-9 we begin today, and she says also that he or she is indifferent to praise and blame. So this is a big one, because we can make an effort to become indifferent to a praise. Huh? Some people, they can easily develop modesty, even if the modesty may not be genuine. But it's easy to control ourselves and say, okay, never mind. It's all Ishwara. I'm nobody here, you know, and this is all the self. So it's easy somehow to avoid the praises, you know, to be elevated with the praise. But how about the blame? The blame is something that gets most people, you know. So if somebody blames us, you know, it's a little harder to be indifferent to blame, you know, because we have these wounds of inadequacy of you know, I'm not having, you know, not being up to the task or being really great and so on, you know. So, and then every time someone blames, it's one is more susceptible. How you say that? Yeah, this is a very difficult word. So
susceptible.
Again?
Oh, susceptible. No, it's hard for me.
It's hard for you. You know, Mark is the best.
Susceptible. Yeah.
Huh?
Susceptible.
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 Okay, susceptible.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So we are usually more susceptible to blame, you know, because of this sense of inadequacy that that follows us, you know, through our educational process and culture and in contact with everyone. We all have to different degrees this sense of insufficiency. So, but the yani, it says here, it's somehow it has a sense of immunization. You know, it's immune to praise and blame, and you can tell when it's really genuine. The people who are really really wise, they don't take the blame, the praise. You know, and you can tell sometimes. You know, sometimes it's easy for us to tell that that is a genuine. You know, humbleness, humility, you know, wisdom. It's a genuine. And one understands that, you know, there is no doer, there is no one to claim, you know, oh, you know, this is my doing, therefore I should be praised. And not only some of these gurus, they expect to be praised, they expect respect, you know. You go and if you don't offer the respect that some people they they believe to deserve. Sometimes they may feel offended, and I had certain experience with gurus that I could notice it on those days, and I found it a little bit strange. The biggest one was Osho Rajneesh, you know, this huge guru with so much millions of devotees and so famous, and sometimes he would easily transparently express that he was pissed off because somebody did not respect him properly, you know, and that was always intriguing to my mind. You know, I say, wow, you know, why he got so pissed off? Because somehow he felt that people or we did not respect, we did not create the respectable enough environment to receive him tonight for his talks and so on, you know. But there are some very wise people that are truly, they have this mental, emotional strength that somehow protects him from these bits and pieces of ignorance and puts him in a condition of balance, of equanimity. Therefore, it can take the blame, it can take the praise and say, hey, you know, you came too late. You cannot praise me and you cannot blame me anymore, you know, because I know what I am and I know that I'm not really doing anything, not even here as a jiva. Everything is being done, it's happening. And at the most, we are all instruments of Ishvara. No? So this is the condition of a yani, the yani who is firmly and properly, you know, integrated and have properly retained and convert this knowledge into existential kind of knowledge so that one's personality is truly transformed. There are cases, it's a gradual process. And again, every time it comes to mind someone that I got to know a little bit, not firsthand, but not Swami, Bhagwan Sri Ramana Maharaj. So he was a beautiful being, you understand? And when we hear stories coming from Ramji, he says the same thing, or even more in regards to Abhedananda. So Swami Abhedananda, to him, it was the most pure and beautiful being he ever met. You know, he was an example of purity. He could see the beauty, the wisdom, the sainthood, you know, the radiance and the balance, you know, in terms of their interaction with others and the environment. So this is the fructification of self-knowledge that can be observed in general, you know. So he or she is indifferent to praise or blame. As long as we think happiness is in the object and other people are included, so we will want others to think well of us. So other people are objects, as we know. And if we believe that our happiness, our contentment, our peace, our ananta depends on objects, so we will be vulnerable and we will be in trouble. We will feel insecure because now I depend on someone's praise, someone's, you know, good notions about myself. You know? So if I put myself in that position, immediately my mind is disturbed and I feel insecure. There is no happiness in any object. The happiness is found in this understanding of one's true nature as consciousness. And only this understanding brings about this mental, emotional balance and strength in order to be indifferent to blame and praise, because I know I'm none of that. What I am is not subject to blame and praise. And even, when I look into identity, this secondary identity as a jiva, I know that the jiva resolves itself in Ishvara because Ishvara is the one doing all jivas. You understand? There is no room for identification with anybody giving us a feedback of blame or praise. This comes from the doubt and insecurity that we feel as individuals trying to find less happiness in these objects. If people think well of us, we think well of ourselves. We think yes. What is this noise in the background, Ron?
I think it's Claudio, he's not muted.
Okay. As long as we measure our worth by the appreciation and respect of others, we live in the insecure world of our subjective notions of who I am and what the world is, We are living the world of the mind where doubt never ceases and self-image, and the self-imaging is always changing. Because if my self-image depends on the appreciation, respect, and opinions of others, I cannot control people's ideas, notions, opinions, and respects or disrespect. So my sense of identity is going to keep fluctuating, and I will feel at lost because I don't really know what I am, who I am, because my sense of identity is dependent on the objects. Right? You get that, David? Our sense of identity. Once we put our sense of identity on objects, we don't really feel stable because our self-esteem is going to be fluctuating, and we never know if we are the greatest or the smallest. Right?
So turn that around. And so if the self-esteem is not based upon others, what can it be based upon? So how is it based on self-knowledge or knowledge of the self?
Yeah. So your question is, if your self-esteem is not based on the opinions of others, the feedback you get from the environment, from others, how are you going to construct your self-esteem, right? Is that your question? You get it from this knowledge, from this understanding of your true self. And then myself is purna, is whole, full, and complete. Why? Myself is not the body-mind complex. Myself is the consciousness, existence, that which shines in the body-mind complex to make me appear as a jiva. You understand? So how is going to be the self-esteem of Yanni? I like to poke David because he always comes up with good questions, So how are we going to define the self-esteem of Yanni? So we can say that the Yanni has no self-esteem. He has no self-image because he knows he's not a person. So the self does not have image or notions or ideas or qualities or attributes about itself. Therefore, the self-image of the Yanni is absent, nil. You understand? Why? Because the Yanni knows that he's not a person. Only persons have a certain image of itself. You get that, David? that does not mean to say that thoughts may cross the mind of the yoni, and he may think like, oh my God, I'm doing really great. Oh, I'm good today. Oh, I did a good job. And no, these thoughts can appear, but they don't have the power to deceive the yoni to the point that he believes that he is the doer and he's a good doer, or he fell short in his doership and so on. Ruth, are you cleaning up the house today? I see Ruth going back and forth with some.
I did have to finish. I did have to finish something. I'm done now, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I'm enjoying it. See, she going back and forth with.
Arlindo, I'm going back. Didn't we hear in a previous verse that Ramana said that action is insentient? And so if that's the case, then could you talk a little bit about that, how that translates no pride or shame?
Well, what that means is that actions, they have a life on its own, and we take to own, we usually own our actions, and then we take the burden of the sense of doership. Once we own action, we say, I did this, I did that, therefore I'm up here, I feel so great, or I feel low because, it did not really come out very good. So the moment that we own the action and we say, I am the doer of this action, and then I have to pay the price of dealing with the result. And then I'm going to, my self-esteem, my self-image is going to be going up and down. So when that saying means to say that the actions is just insentient, it's just happened. The system keeps producing, and the jiva appearing to do that action is just a small factor among many other factors that corroborate, to, how you say in English? Corroborate? Yeah.
Collaborate.
Yeah, collaborate or corroborate. So there are many factors involved for any action to take place, as we know. So where is this sense of I am the doer of action and action is my action? Then in that passage, Ramana Maharaj says that action is not a sentient kind of thing, it's just an inert thing. It's a system. It's energy being moved by all this cause and effect system, and then it all brings actions. And only the jiva takes the impression that it is my action, therefore it is a conscious action or a sentient action and so on. Okay, as long as we measure our self-image from respect and appreciation and love of others, we are the person, and we live in the insecure world of the mind where doubt never ceases and self-image is always changing, up and down. When we are free of these notions of this mind, here it was presented, the world of the mind. The world of the mind means the subjective reality, it is the pratibhaksika satya, the reality of the jiva. The jiva sees the world subjectively, according to all its notions. So, and then he feels insecure when he's believing that what he is or she is whatsoever the field brings back to him as a feedback, So he's depending on people's opinions, notions, and ideas, and likes and loves and respects or disrespect. When we depend on all of that, we are living a reality that is purely subjective. Is this vyavaharika, this pratibhatika reality, which is projected by the jiva, is the world of the mind means that. Okay, so in the world of the mind, this doubt never ceases, because we are never really sure about anything. We are not sure definitely about the others, what the others are going to think about us in the next moment. And my self-image is always change, and the mind is when we have. But on the other hand, when we are free from this condition, when we no longer place our worth on people, place, and things and circumstances, and then we are free of measuring our worth by the hardstick of people's opinions, including my own opinion about myself. That's nice, huh? Because the ego, it develops its own opinion about itself. The ego is nothing but this. I am what I am the body, I am the mind, and I am the doer, and somehow I suppress those feedbacks that tells me that I'm not a great jiva, and I build a good image of myself on the surface of my mind. Underneath, there is a lot of bad notions, bad feelings about myself, but on the surface up there, I keep, on my conscious mind, very good ideas about myself. So when we are free of that, we are free from measuring ourselves based on opinions of others, and much less the opinions about myself. How long in my life I went about judging myself and say, oh my God, I'm a piece of shit, I'm this, I'm not good, I am good today, I'm bad tomorrow. It comes a point that you say, enough, basta. You understand? So I don't care for anyone's opinion about myself, and much less about my own opinions about myself. Why? Because I know that this order of reality is mental, subjective notions that builds the way I see reality and I see myself, is part of this secondary mental suborder of reality of the jiva, called the Vyavaharika, the Pratibhasika Satya. Okay? In fact, there are no others. There is only the self. Can awareness be praised or blamed? So this goes for the beginning of the question of David. So can awareness, can consciousness, our true self, be blamed or praised? That which has no attributes, no qualities, no properties, which is just consciousness, existence. So that has no room for praise or blame. So can awareness be praised or blamed? For what? By whom? The court of public opinion is closed. So just a little joke. The verse 90. There is no samsara. This is a nice joke. The court of public opinion is closed. The public opinion goes, it's represented by my own opinion about myself. I want to emphasize this, because we collect the public opinion from everybody about ourselves. We build our sense of identity through this feedback of what the others pass to us. So here it says the court of public opinion is closed. So I don't care for any public opinion, and my opinion about myself depends on the public opinion of everybody, which everybody provides me. So when everything is closed, I don't have public opinions to base my own opinion about myself anymore. And now game is over. I just know that I am consciousness, and consciousness is one without a second. There is nothing or nobody to judge consciousness. Verse 90, there is no samsara, no life of becoming for the yoni. If there is samsara, there is no knowledge, I am consciousness, owing to extroversion of the mind. So this verse 90 is a very, very radical statement that sometimes finds some debate in the Vedanta circles as well. So it says that there is no samsara, there is no life of becoming for the liberated, okay, for the yoni. So the yoni is said to be liberated when the self-knowledge is hard and fast, meaning to say firm, solid, and always present. This understanding about my primary, true, fundamental, real nature. When this is always present, and then it says that there is no samsara for the yoni. Samsara is the life, is present often as the life of becoming. Is the life that I become more and better to the extent that, I get more things, I get more knowledge, I get more, I get more and better. I can get better by having more physical and financial assets. I can get better by having more intellectual knowledge, scientific knowledge, a better physical body. I can say I'm getting better. Becoming is the life of all samsari, because they are there trying to improve themselves in this interaction with the other objects of the field. Okay, security and pleasures and circumstance and status and fame, anything that can, make me feel better. So samsara is the belief that reality is duality, and the objects of the field, they are real, and they serve the purpose to make me a better person, better entity. You understand? We get that? Oh, I'm getting better. And then when we move into spirituality, we are still trapped in that notion. I'm getting better. And to a certain extent, we are still getting better. We are getting a better mind, a better intellect, meaning to say a more contemplative, a more scientific, you understand? And that can be said. So as far as my body-mind complex, I'm going through the process of purification, refinement, betterment, developing a more balanced personality and so on. So this process of becoming, it goes all the way until self-recognition, self-knowledge. And then it said that once this self-knowledge is hard and fast, and then we go into that which is often referred to by Ramji as self-actualization, or moksha. So moksha is when this self-knowledge, it fructifies to bring about this mental emotional strength, that prevents the yoni from being fluctuating between ignorance and knowledge. Ignorance and unknown. The knowledge is firm, therefore, those overreactions that are expressions of ignorance, they begin gradually disappearing. Okay, I often like to present liberation or moksha as a gradual process that comes after self-knowledge being firmly assimilated. Okay, so there is no samsara once the individual is liberated. Okay, and if there is samsara still, and then the verse and then the verse goes back, says, but if there is samsara still, it means that there is no knowledge. I am pure, limitless awareness. And that is owing to some kind of extroversion of the mind. Okay. So when I look into a verse like this, I see myself, because as some of you must probably have heard me saying, so when self-recognition took place, I did not know Vedanta. And I realized that the knowledge was clear, that I know I am consciousness, I know everything is consciousness. But yet there was a lot of vasanas that were extroverting my mind. And my mind was still craving for what? Was craving for appreciation, validation, recognition, love, you understand? Which is very common. Only later on, I became aware of that, including in my interactions with Ramji, that it takes some time. until these bits and pieces of ignorance, they are gradually neutralized, you know. So if there is self-recognition, but there is not really, you know, liberation or moksha, so it means that there is still some samsara, the life of becoming, the life of needing something from the field of objects. It means that there is no really self-knowledge. I am awareness, I am limitless, pure awareness. And that is due to certain extroversion of the mind. Extroversion of the mind means to say remainings of vasanas, those hardwired vasanas that are going to still extrovert the mind saying like, yes, now you got it, you understood, you are consciousness, you are enlightened, but I still need this, I still need that, and I want to be recognized now, you understand? So there are some extroversions of the mind, and that is due to those vasanas, you know? So therefore there is still some samsara hanging there. Sylvia, can you do me a favor? Turn off this fan because this is what's doing this, please. Okay, let's see what the commentaries here are. Samsara can be understood most technically, traditionally, as the process of life, birth, life, death, and reincarnation. This is the wheel of samsara chakra. But in this verse, that's not the meaning of samsara. Samsara here is meant as the life of becoming, of interacting with the object as a means to make myself better, you know, more and better. Samsara here means identification with the body-mind, with its ever-changing conditions. So long as we think we are individual, we perceive the world of objects separate from us, and we are driven by the pull produced by objects. Some objects we like, as we know, and some we do not like. And we believe that these objects, they have intrinsic values, you know, and we believe that we still need those objects as a means to complete myself, or to feel okay, to feel, you know, better, to become someone higher. No? So this is all part of samsara, as the life of becoming, of changing, of, you know, and this becoming not necessarily is growing or developing, because we can change in a declining manner as well. We can grow, elevate ourselves, but we can, you know, depends a lot on the exercise of our free will. We have at best only a very limited control over which objects we still experience, which renders us impotent in the face of their ceaseless fluctuation. We cannot, for instance, predict what will happen 2 minutes from now and whether we will like it or dislike it. So how about that? So the whole key is totally relaxed about that, you know. So we cannot predict, not even what's going to be happening in 2 minutes. The internet may drop. Just imagine if I need to be all excited about, oh, internet, you must not drop, you must, you know. So we never know. So we don't know what's going to happen in 2 minutes. This places us in a pitiable situation, forever going up and down on the seesaw of pain and pleasure, unable to achieve any intellectual emotional stability. This is samsara, the life of endless achieving, gaining, becoming, suffering, because we can't control the objects. We can't control even our thoughts, our next moment's thought. We cannot control the circumstance of life in a moment to moment. We are impotent to the face of these fluctuations of the field. So we don't have any control over the objects And only this understanding allows us to relax and live what belongs to Ishvara, and take care of our own business. What belongs to the Jiva is how I respond to what Ishvara presents to me, and I respond to the best of my ability in harmony with the Dharma field, with the laws. Yeah? So I do my things, and I just take any and everything as prasadam. When we are liberated, the verse says that we are free of samsara. There is no set of external conditions necessary for our happiness. In fact, there are no external conditions at all, for there is no inside and outside to awareness. The not self, the jiva self, the body mind, and the other objects are no longer perceived as real. When it's perceived as real, it means that we are not liberated in that very moment. You understand? So that's why I never like to say, oh, somebody got moksha. But we have these bits and pieces of ignorance, rajas and tamas, fluctuations of the mind, that here and there may appear to obscure this freedom. But it does not really obscure, because knowledge is that which is always good. Even if there is a moment in which one's mind is operated by some rajas and tamas and responds, in an unwise way, the knowledge, which is hard and fast, allows the yoni to recompose itself. And immediately, there is no doubt about one's true nature. And one of these are just remainings of rajas and tamas, remainings of avidya, which is very natural in the human condition. When we are liberated, we are free of samsara. So we don't depend on these external conditions necessary for happiness. So if we want to really see the naked truth, there are no external conditions to begin with, because there is only consciousness, and I am that, and you are that, and everything is that. Okay? That way, the not self, meaning to say all the objects, which includes this body-mind object, they are no longer perceived as real. And whenever it's perceived as real, it means that I'm under the spell of avidya. You understand? What is the difference here? If the yoni is under a spell of avidya here and there, he does not take that moment to invalidate his conviction of self-knowledge. Doesn't matter, I am the self, I'm consciousness, I'm always ever free. Even if a thought, I am the not self, may pop up and produce a certain reaction, you understand? That's the difference. And I say that because before this knowledge was firm to me, every time I would, have a moment of forgetfulness about I am free, limitless consciousness, I would identify with that movement, with that action. And I would say, oh my God, I'm not enlightened, I'm not free. Look how, you see the cycle? Identification as the doer causes all of that, The yoni, that identification as the doer, is broken. So if there is a negative thought or a vidya thought influence the mind of the yoni, that does not, makes the yoni to believe that he is the doer and he is an unenlightened doer, because he knows that he has an objective view of his own jiva. You understand? You understand this subtle difference? We are in this verse. We unfold the condition of the one who knows the true nature of awareness, of non-dual awareness. So how is it for the yoni to live with this knowledge? So that's why I'm taking this opportunity to illustrate the best possible, make some illustration. Extroversion of the mind means turning outward. So what turns our mind outward? What turns our mind towards objects? Those vasanas that tell me, oh yes, that object is really good, yummy, and I need it, So those vasanas is what are going to get us going. Going for what? To gain, to retain, or to avoid things so that I can get more, better, and improve and so on. A better sense of identity. Extroversion means turning outward, going, reaching out for the objects. And when we reach out to gain, we reach out to maintain, to retain, and we reach out to push away, to avoid. It is to see reality not as it is. We don't see reality as non-dual awareness. We see reality as duality, as plurality, and we believe that the objects were designed to complete me. And then the mind becomes extroverted because I lost the Vedantic vision of non-duality, that there is only this ocean of consciousness which is full and complete. Undivided awareness, but as a subject object, perceiving a multiplicity of independent objects, and then again I'm caught up into this attraction and repulsion towards in relation to the object. As long as we are extrovert, we are trapped in duality. A lone creature looking out at a lean world that sometimes wounds us, sometimes pleases us. Okay. So when we are trapped in duality, we feel more or less in that condition. We feel very lonely. We still feel insecure. We feel afraid. We feel small and insignificant. I feel like I'm a line or a lean entity in a world that is very dangerous, world that is there to threaten us, and very rare here and there a world that is going to please us, So if I'm trapped in duality, we see the world as a dangerous place. We feel insecure when we see duality, when we believe duality is reality. We feel afraid, we feel insecure, we want to protect, we want to defend, sometimes we want to attack as a good form of defense. So we are trapped. We become like figures in a Greek tragedy with the fate spinning and cutting the threads of our lives while we helplessly suffer or enjoy. But we must suffer for all happiness found in object, that is through extroversion, is fleeting happiness. So in here it says, life as we know is this fluctuation of experience of pleasure and pain, of happiness and suffering. But here it says, but we must suffer in any case, even if we succeed in samsara. So even if we manage to succeed in our accomplishments, still we must suffer. Why? Because our gains are fleeting, Okay, this extroversion brings about fleeting moments of happiness that they last very shortly as we gain something or we avoid something before something else comes into our mind and tells, okay, but now this and that is still missing. These are, go and get this and go and avoid that and so on. So this happiness, as we say, this indirect, depending happiness connect to the object is not true happiness because it's defected by nature. The object do not really possess it. It comes with this problem of even when I gain something, immediately I'm disturbed by the fact that I have to work hard to maintain it. Not to say that by the time we gain something, we are already stressed up because it takes huge effort, work and competition to gain, to accomplish, to become, you understand? So we get there already a bit worn out, and then we have the problem now what to do to keep it, you understand? That's why Krishna says, so just relax, keep your mind, in the teachings, remember God, remember you are Brahman, and life will take care of your gaining and keeping, so things are good. So this spiritual knowledge is the only way out of samsara. Therefore, we must suffer because all happiness found in objects through this extroversion to go and get it or avoid it is produce a fleeting happiness. And we are never going to be happy and satisfied with fleeting moments of happiness, as we know. To be free means to be no longer strapped to the wheel of samsara, while it turns in endless cycles of pain and pleasure. To be free means to be no longer strapped in the wheel. What is the meaning of this word, strapped to the wheel? Strapped is pulled in the wheel. Oh, like that. Okay, got it. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Like tied to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a very, very tough, unpleasant condition. Yeah. So to be free means no longer be strapped to the wheel of samsara. It turns endlessly between suffering and pain, suffering and pain. You are up there, you enjoy some pleasure, and then here pain, and then pleasure. So who would not wish to be free from this wheel of samsara? That's the point, So who would not be free? That's why self-knowledge is the only way to moksha, the only way to true freedom and happiness. Because you are not putting yourself in the condition of depending on the objects of the field to experience freedom and happiness and joy and peace. The verse 91. Just as the actions done in a dream are dissolved on a waking state, the accumulated results of past actions are dissolved by self-knowledge. So all the actions done in a dream, they may produce results of actions in the dream, as we know. Yeah? Whatever we do there, we are doing in this suborder of reality, meaning to say the dream state of the jiva. So if we do something there, I have to deal with the results of those doings. And I may enjoy some results of actions in the dream state, or I may suffer some results of actions in the dream state. But once I wake up, I open my eyes and I recall my identity as the Vishwa, the awaker. Yeah? So all those actions and results of actions, they dissolve. Why they dissolve? Because I realized that they were not real. Oh, they are not real. So I have no concern. If I was feeling guilt in my dream state because I did some action that was not appropriate, immediately that dream, that guilt is going to dissolve. Why? Because it was just a dream, and the dream is not real. And Vedanta often makes this parallel between these two states, the dream and the awakening, to say that as well in the waking state, when you wake up from the fact that you are not the doer and you don't need to carry the burden of the results of the doings that happens through your body mind, and then you understand, that it's all Ishvara, and you are free from the results of the actions in the awakened state. But in which way you're going to be free? The results of actions are going to manifest, but you are not going to own them because you broke the chain of identification as the doer of those actions. You know that, we are all being done to the best of our ability. We try to do our actions in harmony with the Dharma, in harmony with the laws. And if I fall short here and there is no sense of blame, understand? I'm feeling guilt because I'm doing the best I can. And then things go like that. And I know that it's all Ishvara. I know that the doer is not really real. So I don't own the results of those actions, although those results manifest to the yoni. But what's the difference then? Is the yoni, and the most are going to take it on the physical level. What it means to say? It means that physically, I cannot avoid certain results of action. You understand? For example, so if one gets sick, like Ramana Maharaj got his cancer at the age of 70 something or 69, he got this karma. And how can anyone could expect someone who lived a life the way he lived? So it means to say that it's some karma that was overhang from some previous births. It came and manifest. Okay, physically, he had to take this karma, and it was very painful, as we could see in the pictures and so on. He was in deep pain. So this karma came for his physical body. But it did not even come to his mind. Why? Because he was no longer, in his subjective reality, he was no longer identified as this is my karma. He knows karma belongs to Ishvara, the entire system. So even psychologically, the yoni does not suffer the karma. Okay? The body may suffer, but the results are not going to be owned by the yoni because he understood Ishvara, he understood Jiva, and he understood the Dharma. And then he knows, okay, this is all belonging to Ishvara. The body is going to suffer. The karma comes back to the body, but not to myself as the Jiva Mukta, and much less to myself as consciousness, as Satya. Just as the actions done in a dream are dissolved on awaking, the accumulated results of past actions are dissolved by self-knowledge. That's exactly what it means. All the actions that were accumulated, from lives, several births, and this lifetime, so they accumulate, they are there as Sanchita, waiting to manifest to become once Parabhada karma, okay? And then once the self-knowledge is taken, those accumulated results of past actions, they are dissolved. They are dissolved in the sense that they are no longer impacting the life of the yoni. Because, as I said, he knows that it all belongs to Ishvara. So it's important we understand this as well, because this is one of the benefits of self-knowledge, is the understanding that, que será, será, and none of this belongs to me, belongs to Ishvara. You understand? The results of everything I did in this lifetime, which was not good karma, good action, will manifest, but there is no sense that this is my karma. You understand? Because that identification with the body-mind, the doer who does actions to enjoy or suffer the results of actions, their identification was broken. You understand, Claudio? The identification is broken. The system continues. It's going to affect the body, but not even the mind, the intellect of the Jivamukta, you know, in its own psychology. So no, this is all belongs. I no longer own, I no longer identify myself as the one who's doing and the one who's reaping the results of my doings. This verse brings us back again to the question of karma and states unequivocally that liberation releases us from the results of past actions. However innumerable these actions may be. Now it brings us to this notion: all karma is going to be washed. How is this release accomplished? And there are a lot of verses that we covered here in Vivekachudamani that says that, you know, but even for the yoni, once the karma was put in the field, in the field, like an arrow, once it's launched, it's going to reach its destination. Understand? So we may find some apparent contradiction. No, the karma is going to manifest, but it's not going to be owned again. However innumerable those actions may be, how is this release accomplished? How can we dissolve? How can we come to a point that canceling all the results of all actions that I put in the system? And I have done so many actions, and many of those actions were not good actions. So how am I going to cancel all of that? If the body remains, it must act and experience the results of actions. For as long as the body of the yoni is there, it's going to receive the results of one's actions. Again, going back to what I said before, the body is going to take the burden of the results. As long as the body remains, it must act and it must experience the results of actions for as long as the body is alive. Even in the case of the yoni, he's exhausting his prarabdha karmas. That's why there are some sayings that says that there is only prarabdha karma for the yoni, because it's going to manifest. It must be experienced as the results of one's previous actions of this lifetime and previous lifetime. If the body remains, it must experience. The body cannot remain motionless, as caricatured by the image of the meditating holy man sitting atop a mountain peak. That's very nice. You want to avoid karma? Become a yogi and sit somewhere and don't do anything. Okay? So motionless, because the body is designed to respond, to act, and every action brings about repercussions, results. So the body cannot remain as, yogis would like it be the case, like a holy man sitting at the mountain peak. So we must ask, how does self-knowledge solve the effects of past actions? So we're kind of going into this inquiry, how self-knowledge is going to, to finish up with actions and its results. Oh no, and then self-knowledge, the yoni, the inquirer, has to become a yogi so that he can learn to become motionless. You understand? And then only then we say he has the knowledge and he no longer brings any actions into the Dharma field. Say, no, but that's not the case. How does self-knowledge solve the effects of all past actions without having to become motionless? Because even if one becomes motionless, how about all the other actions that we already present to the field? You understand? Self-knowledge solves the results of past actions in this way. It removes it removes one's identification as the doer and as the enjoyer and as the sufferer of all actions. No, exactly what I was saying before. It's by destroying this identification with the doer, the enjoyer, and the sufferer, the one who takes the blame and the one who takes the praise, the one who feels like I am doing. Self-knowledge is going to destroy it because it's going to reveal to the jiva that he is actionless, awareness that does not do any action. And even if it wants to understand jiva, the nature of the jiva mukta, it comes back to explain to the jiva mukta that if action takes place in this apparent order of reality, it's all due to Ishvara. Understand? The totality of all factors, Daivan, the totality of all factors that brings about every action on a moment-to-moment basis. It removes, it cancels, it neutralizes, it destroys our identification with the doer as the doer, enjoyer, and sufferer. Meaning to say, the notion I am the body-mind, I am the doer. To think that awareness of the body must disappear for the self to be realized is to invest the body with more than an empirical apparent reality. To think that awareness of the body must disappear, I need to go into a deep state of nirvikalpa samadhi in which the body disappears and there is only this emptiness. To believe that the body is the problem and all other objects that are perceived through the body is the problem, is to place the body on the same level as the self. Is to place the body, if we think that the body and the objects are the problem, you understand? I cannot be free if there is a body and the object because I am consciousness. So if the body and the other objects that are perceived by this body-mind, if they are the problem, and then I'm putting the body-mind complex and all perceived objects on the same level as consciousness, awareness, the self. You understand? Because how can the body, how can the other object, abstract or cancel my limitless nature and freedom as consciousness, infinite consciousness? So how can something that happened in the dream state affect my life literally in the awakened state? It will never. If we do something really bad in the dream state, sometimes we wake up in the morning and say, oh, this was really bad. But now we understand Vasana. We say, oh, this is old stuff, This was really bad. I was almost killing someone there, So even if something like that comes, it's not really going to affect us in the awakened state because we know, oh, this is just a dream. It's not real. I would never do that in the first place, right? So now, if I say that the body and the other objects are really preventing myself to enjoy and appreciate my freedom, it means to say that I'm putting the body and the object on the same level of reality as free awareness. because only then it can impact, only then it can abstract, you understand, conceal my free nature as awareness. Not only we are placing the body and the objects on the same level as awareness, as consciousness, as the self, but I'm considering them mutually exclusive. If there is the body, if there are other objects, and then my conscious awareness, limitless awareness shrinks. Huh? And I no longer am consciousness. Why? Because I was a great conscious existence, limitless reality, and then the mind came and the object came, and then myself was destroyed. So we are putting them on the same order of reality, and we are saying that the self cannot exist in the presence of the mind and the objects perceived by the mind. And the Upanishads asserts it clearly, yeah? Presenting us with all the logic to support these assertions, yeah? That consciousness is not impacted by the mind and the objects that occur within the screen of the mind, because the objects in the screen called the mind, they happen within the scope of consciousness. Consciousness is there, pervading, permeating, supporting, and sustaining. Everything is happening in consciousness without touching or affecting consciousness, because we are talking of two orders of reality, of the same non-dual reality called Satya. Why it's only one order of reality? Because Satya is real and Mithya is only apparently real. There is only one non-dual reality. But this superimposition, the so-called Mithya, is going to appear. And then in the beginning, the seekers of moksha are going to develop this belief. If there are objects, if there are thoughts, and then those thoughts and those objects are obstructing my freedom, which is an absurd. It's a total absurd, because they belong to these two orders of reality. They don't really affect. You cannot push one into another the same way the dream state and the wake state, they don't mix up. From the highest truth, there is no body, in the sense that there is only awareness, existence, consciousness, but it is our inability to maintain this highest view, this highest knowledge, this highest level of understanding that brings us to Vedanta. This is very nice. From the highest truth, there is no body. There are no objects being perceived by this body-mind. There is only limitless conscious existence. But it is our inability to comprehend and maintain the highest level of understanding, such as this one, that brings us to Vedanta, which very considerately takes us from where we may be and patiently leads us from one level to another until we are firmly established as the self. No? Until we are firmly established in our true nature as consciousness, existence. So again, from the highest truth, there is no body. There is only consciousness. But it is within the body-mind that this understanding takes place. You understand? So there is no body. The body is an apparent reality. It's not really real, but it is through the not-self, the apparent body-mind complex, that reality can be understood. And then the one who understood that this Jiva, Atma, this apparent body-mind construct, in truth, in its substantial, essential nature, is that Brahman. So this understanding of reality can only be found in Mitya, in the not self, in the intellect of the Jiva Atma. Jiva Atma is the instrument in which this self-knowledge can take place, which is in regards to the true nature of Mitya as Satya. This is a very, very interesting topic, and I like very much to unfold sometime, Therefore, it is our inability to keep this highest level of knowledge in our minds, alive in our minds, that brings us to Vedanta, which very compassionately will take us from where we are, where we may be, and patiently and gradually lead us until we are firmly established in the self as the self. Some suppose that enlightenment somehow erases awareness of the body. If this is not the case, they argue bondage remains. But bondage, we must recall, is identifying with the not self. The not self remains, but the identification with the not self is broken. But some imagine that enlightenment is going to erase the perception and awareness, and we are no longer conscious I'm the body. I'm no longer conscious of there is a duality, subject-object. No, the subject-object duality remains, but our identification with the body-mind and the belief that duality is reality is broken. The body need not disappear for consciousness for us to be free. We must simply cease to think of the body as the true self. How can the body be the true self if the body appears and disappears in our consciousness, in our mind? The body appears in the mind appears within my conscious awareness. How can I take the body to be the self, the true self, right? The body need not disappear for us to be free. In fact, the body disappears every night when we go to deep sleep. And what happens? In the morning, we get up and the body appears again. And we don't think like, oh my God, I was enlightened overnight, No, because Ishvara somehow produced the deep sleep in which the body disappears, the mind disappears, and that does not really free anyone, okay? Because freedom is only possible in the intellect, in human intellect, which is a byproduct of this understanding of one's true essential identity, nature, as consciousness. And the body cannot disappear in awareness or from awareness, in any case, for it is a manifestation of Ishvara. That's very interesting. Ishvara produced the body. Ishvara gives us a break from this subject-object duality we experience during the day. It brings us a break, gives us a break so that we can rest from that affliction, that tells us that duality is reality. And the body cannot disappear. Even if I want, I become a yogi, I say, no, I want to destroy this duality, I want to develop this mental condition, the Vikalpa Samadhi, so that the body disappears and any and everything experienced by the body disappears. Even if I want to accomplish that, we are powerless. Why? because that belongs to Ishvara. Ishvara has the power to reduce the body and then make the body experience all other objects. And only Ishvara is going to be able in due time to remove the body and remove the duality experienced by the body-mind complex. You understand? So we cannot do anything about that. But the people of the yoga, they insist that, no, I can do it. I can do it. I will practice for many lives until I can get into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. But Nirvikalpa Samadhi, again, is not in the hands of the yogi. The yogi makes an effort until it develops a certain vasana, but yet he does not really have control on when he's going to go into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, when he's going to come out, how long it's going to last. And every time it comes out, he feels limited and bound by the sense of duality. Oh my God, the mind, the thoughts, and the object came back, and now again, I am bound to samsara. Strictly speaking, there is only one reality, satya, the self, consciousness, but we can discuss appearance of reality on different levels as long as we are clear about the provisional nature of these appearances. There is only one reality, and there are several sub-orders of apparent realities that we must discuss, knowing that those are concessions until we develop the purity of mind to understand the non-dual nature of reality. Vedanta posits three levels of reality: the highest, the empirical, and the imaginary. The highest is Brahman, the empirical is Ishvara, manifested the universe, and the imaginary is the subjective reality that exists privately, in the mind of every human jiva. The highest level, Paramarthika Satya, is that in which being is understood to be non-dual consciousness awareness. The empirical reality, Vyavaharika Satya, being with apparent limitations, corresponds to what is commonly perceived. It is the conventionally accepted nature of things, the world as manifest, this beautiful, intelligent ignorance, as Ramji likes to put, it deceives everybody. It's the greatest, trickiest Mr. Maya, and it projects this universe, and it is beautifully is designed by pure knowledge and intelligence, and recycled on a moment-to-moment basis. We perceive this reality. This is Vyavaharika Satya. It's a product of Maya Ishvara. And then we have the imaginary reality, Pratibhastika Satya, is that which is the mental product of an individual. So the interaction of the individual with the Vyavaharika projection of Maya is going to live in the mental, in the mind of the individual, impressions, subtle memories, mental, emotional, intellectual impressions. And that is going to build, to become one's subjective pratibhastika reality. Is that which is the mental product of individual, and it is restricted to his perception. It's a very private mental reality which belongs to each one of us, which is the byproduct of our interaction with what? With Vyavaharika Satya. We interact with the field projected by mind. We hold impressions, and those impressions constitute our body of vasanas through which we interpret, we experience, we filter, and we interpret the Vyavaharika Satya, which is an empirical projection of Maya Ishvara. The imaginary reality, Pratibhastika Satya, is that which is the mental product of an individual, and it is restricted to his perception, his determinations, it is his vasanas. as is an image in a dream. So in the dream, when we have a dream, when we project our dream, when we live our dream, we are just experience the contents of our vasanas. We experience the contents of those mental, emotional impressions which were retained in our subtle body, in our causal body, in our vasanas. Those are the three levels of reality. We referred earlier to adhyasa, which is the mixing up of the real, not self and self, real and the real. The term unreal is inherently contradictory, as there can be no such a thing as unreal. There is being, period. There is sat, that what is, period. Even if it is a projection, even if it is a mirage on the desert, that mirage is, that mirage exists, you understand? Even if it's just an appearance. That's why we can never say that mithya does not exist. It does exist, not as something absolutely real, but as a projection, a superimposition, the same way that the ring of the gold ring does not really, is not really real because its essential, substantial, true nature, true reality is gold and gold alone. So same, likewise, consciousness is the only reality, but within consciousness, infinity numbers of names, colors, and forms are superimposed. So there is no such a thing in truth as not self or not unreal. There is sat, there is beingness, there is isness, period. So this mixing up, which is often referred to by the unwidely term superimposition, can be more precisely defined as confusing the highest level of reality with the empirical or imaginary level of reality. In short, it occurs when we think the not self, that the not self is the self. So adhyasa is mixing up these two orders of reality, the absolutely reality called satya and the mithya apparent reality, you know. So when we mix them up, we superimpose mithya in satya in mithya, and then we experience confusion and suffering. So that's what this paragraph is saying, that there is no such a thing as absolutely non-existence. There is no such a thing as absolutely unreal. There is sat, everything is consciousness. Consciousness concedes existence even to the projection, even to the superimposition, even to the mirage on the desert. Everything is what it is, okay? Some are considered to be the true reality, the absolute reality, the others is an apparent reality, but everything is. Yeah? So the confusion, the problem is mixing up reality with apparent reality, satya with mithya. You understand? Mithya is not going to go anywhere, and mithya is not going to bound us as long as we know that mithya is mithya and satya is satya. Are we following? Now, adhyasa can occur in two ways. When we mistake the snake for the rope, we are dealing with an imaginary reality. So now we have this confusion. We mistake the snake for the rope. There is a rope and we see a snake. We are dealing with an imaginary reality. It's a projection. I have seen a snake. I saw someone dying from a bite of snake, and I have this fear, and then I project, my imagination projects the snake on the rope. So it's a mistake, it's a confusion, okay? It's a confusion of my my pratibhasika on the vyavaharika, yeah, satya reality of Maheshwara, on the order of the dream image. This product of imagination is dispelled when we recognize the rope or in the case of a dream, when we awake, I say, oh, it was just a dream. Oh, it was just a projection of the rope, that snake on the rope. So it's all solved, problem resolved. Both the snake and the dreams, they all both disappear. But when we cease to identify the self with the body will no longer disappear. Okay? So, two ways we can experience adhyasa: as a superimposition of our imagination on something that is a manifestation of Maheshwara. When we cease to identify the self with the body will not disappear. So what it's saying here, when we see the snake, when we see the rope for the rope, what happens with the snake? Snake disappears. Even if we try to see the snake again, we can't, because now we have knowledge. Okay, now it's clear. So it is a rope. Okay, so the other kind of adhyasa, of confusion, is a confusion that can be broken, can be destroyed. When we cease to identify the self with the body will remain. It's not like the snake that disappears once you see it through. Once you understand that the body is just a superimposition, the body is not going to disappear the same way that the snake disappeared. The body is going to remain. And this is another kind of adhyasa, confusion. So you understood the true nature of the body to be consciousness, the self, but that does not cancel the persistence appearance of the body every day in our lives. When we cease to identify the self with the body will not disappear, for it has an empirical reality which belongs to Ishvara. It's not a product of a dream, and it's not the production of my personal superimposition. I did not really produce the body as a hologram or anything, It's just a product of my Ishvara. It belongs to Ishvara. It's not a mental production of my imagination. It belongs to my Ishvara. It will continue to appear and to act and to experience the results of actions. But we will not do so, for we'll know ourselves to be something other than the body. You see? So the body is going to continue, is not going to disappear. It's going to be seen to be just a superimposition on consciousness. But that understanding, this enlightenment, this self-knowledge does not cancel the appearance of the body, as many people in the spiritual world believe. The body will remain because the body does not belong to my subjective reality. Understand? It's not my pratibhasika. The body is the production of Maya in Vyavaharika. The body was created by Ishvara. There's nothing I can do to cancel the body, but I can cancel my belief that the body is my true fundamental reality, identity. Okay? So when we cease to identify, to believe that the body is my true self, the body will not disappear, for it has empirical reality. It's not the product of a dream or misperception. It will continue to act, continue to experience the results of actions, but will not do so. We will not act and will not experience the result of action because we understood the game. We understood that this belongs to Mithya, I am Satya, and even in Mithya, all of these actions belongs to Ishvara. The results, they just account back to Ishvara. He's going to do whatever he wants with these results. I don't own that. The body may have to exhaust this parabdha karma, but I am free from actions and its results. Okay? So the body will experience, but we, the liberated one, will not experience these actions and results. For we will know ourselves to be something other than the body. Other than the body means to say, I am the only reality. I am free, limitless, conscious awareness. Okie dokie. So it was a bit intense today, maybe. And I believe, you know how I know that was intense? Because of the facial expressions coming from David. David is so important in our group. And I guess our session today is going to make room for nice inquiries and contemplations and maybe some questions for our coming Thursday session. Karen, everything is good?
Yes,
Good.
I'm just
tired.
did a big workout this morning.
I want to see you smiling. Okay, dokie. Okay, so we meet again soon Thursday, Ishwara willing. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, everyone. We meet again soon. Much love.
And thank you, Ronaldo.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks,
Ronaldo.
you too.
I saw that he was doing some work in the background.
Yeah, it went well today. Thank you.
Good, good.